podcast, the Couch GM Pod. Welcome to a live edition of the Cougs on the Couch GM podcast. We got a great episode today. We're gonna have Mkristo Bruce coming up here in about 10 minutes. We're then gonna have Ryan Harlan, who is a senior sports writer covering Oregon State athletics for the Beavers Edge and On3 Sports affiliate later in the show. We're going to talk through the JMU recap. We have a rematch between Oregon State and Washington State, a unique season so far this year. Washington State has an opportunity at revenge, this time in Pullman, and a chilly 37-degree atmosphere versus the Oregon State Beavers, who now is 2-9. Dylan, let's start off with a bit of recap with JMU and your just initial thoughts of this game. You know, obviously they end up falling 24-20 on the road yet again to a ranked opponent. What did you see from this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it was the two explosive plays in the second half, the Wayne Knight run, and then obviously the pass. I believe 68 and 58-yard touchdown runs where either play, the JMU player was untouched. And that was tough. Because, you know, Jesse Bobbitt and this defense have been fantastic over the last 8 weeks, especially at not allowing those explosive plays to happen. But, it just kind of was the same script that we've seen all season long on the road. Virginia, Ole Miss, Oregon State. It has just been tough sledding for these guys when it comes to a road game against a ranked team. But that JMU team, that quarterback was not impressive. I thought WSU did a good job making his life tough. They got a good amount of pressures on him, forced some errant throws and quick decisions. But, you take a look at one play was really the deciding factor in the game, and it was a pick six. You take that away, it's a 20-17 game.
And we were texting back and forth. I mean, it'll be, the big positive here is that Washington State has been so close against Ole Miss, against Virginia, against James Madison on the road, and they've been fighting and right in it to the end of the games. Let's see what year two looks like with Jimmy Rogers. 75 new players this year, obviously completely new scheme, just trying to basically build the plane as it's going down the runway, trying to, get to a bowl game here in the final regular season matchup. We got Mkristo in the waiting room. So let's go ahead and bring in Mkristo Bruce. If you didn't already know, he's a mortgage lender as well. Reach out to MK if you have any questions regarding mortgage. MK, how are we doing?
What's up, boys? How we doing? You hear me okay?
Yeah.
We can tell the difference between those AirPods and the linked cords.
I'm telling you right now, I saw Aaron Rodgers. He's not a conspiracy theorist at all, but I saw there's some studies going on about radiation going in ears. And yeah. So anyways, your boy's going full circle. We went from wireless back to the wired. We're back.
There you go. What were your takeaways from this JMU matchup?
Golly, guys, I'm telling you right now, I was at a Cougar Watch party over in Scottsdale with some fellow Cougs up there. We're just, we're talking shop and some Cougar alumni rubbing shoulders, having a great time. But it's so fun to watch the defense. There's some mishaps. I think you are talking about some of the big runs, but offensively, I think here's what a lot of people are struggling with is going from an air raid where you're just throwing up as many points as you can to this new style of offense. And it works if you can, put up, defensively, should we have kept them under 24 points? Obviously, right? But, offensively, we've been so vanilla and it's so frustrating. And, you take away some of the mistakes with Zeb, throwing an interception, pick six, things like that. It's a different ball game. But just the big plays not there. The ability to get more first downs isn't there. Keep the plays going. That's what I'm struggling with right now. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing too.
And it really comes down to the second half play calling, it seems. I mean, Dylan has talked about this throughout the season. It's just the passiveness. It's like playing not to lose instead of playing to win. And just the difference. They don't trust their quarterback.
I mean, would you? I mean, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
He's in multiple games of 2 interceptions. You throw a pick six and it's like, shit, how do we get this win and get off the field? and go home, and I think that's kind of what they were thinking. It's tough. Danny's in a tough position as the offensive coordinator, but, I it's hard because part of me is like, hey, this is his fault because he's calling the plays. The other part of me is, okay, he's obviously come up with a great game plan, right? But you need the pieces on the field to, follow your progression to get through it. If you look at a lot of this game film, receivers are wide open. Granted, we've had costly drops in every game, but receivers are open. The progression's open. I think Zeb kind of panics a little bit. So it's so tough. He's the lesser of both evils, but at the same time, he's just something's going on in his head to where he just panics. And I think at that point, coaches are starting to tell him to eat it and run. And, I'm struggling with it.
He had a fantastic run on his touchdown. That play was blown up from the start. I don't know how he made it in there. He makes some great plays, but there's also, I think it's just like a combination of a bunch of things. He's hurt. He's not completely healthy right now.
Yeah.
B, he came into this season losing the job because of turnover issues in fall camp. So
Allegedly,
that also plays into it. But I just think it's a combination of everything. I don't think we can completely put this on Freund. He's going to be back next year, just based off of what I heard in Coach Rogers' press conference. WSU is not in a position where we can just let an OC go after 1 year. Also, he doesn't have his quarterback. And that is the main thing on the agenda this offseason, because I don't think there is one quarterback on this roster for next year.
There's not. If Washington State wants to win, unfortunately, it's not going to be with them, And here's the hard part is like, Zeb gets this run and he just beasts everybody, gets in the end zone, gets you jacked up. When he spiked the ball and flex, I was like, let's go, it was a momentum changer. And then he just turns around and you get a pick six or whatever. And it's just like, it's so hard because the plus minus is just so drastic when he's playing. And it's like, you get the highest of the highs and then right after the lowest of the lows. So I think the consistency piece is what Washington State is missing, and really a game manager that can extend plays. Does that make sense? So someone who can, look at a defensive front and say, okay, I have these progressions or audibles that I can go to, right? Or if we know we're third and short or third and long, right? And the play's breaking down. Can I read through my progressions and get us one more first down so we can get in field goal range, right? So we're just not setting the field up or that QB knowledge to be able to get to that field goal range and just get points. That's the difference maker.
Did you feel like WSU should have gone for it on that 4th and 3, 4th and 4, because they punt the ball away and then James Madison just held on to the ball for the rest of the game?
That blew my mind. Yeah, I don't know why. And again, it's just like part of it. I'm sure coach was just thinking that he was going to. The defense has just been playing well, so part of it's like, okay, our strength is our defense. Let's go there. That's the only thing I could think of.
Now, kind of spinning it too
with the clock. You have to go for it. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, yeah. Just kind of spinning it to a positive. Let's just kind of look at the season as a whole with what they've done so far. Obviously, they've been close in some big games. Like, what are some positives that you've seen from this year? And obviously, completely new staff, new players, working towards the final game of the regular season, trying to get the win against Oregon State, and then heading into the offseason. Like, what are some, bowl eligibility. What are some big positives that you've seen?
Well, I mean, first of all, the biggest thing that needs to happen right now is they need to beat Oregon State. That's numero uno before you talk about anything else. They need to beat Oregon State. And then what you need to do is you need to protect your guys, your Isaac Terrells, or, what I mean, your big play guys. You have to protect them and close the portal door for them and find a way to keep them in Pullman and then build around them. I think Jimmy did a great job. We had no idea what product he was going to put on the field at all. And to have that amount of new players, new city, new coach, all that stuff together, I think he did a phenomenal job, especially with the way that the Pac got split up and really just cleaning up after, the previous regime. I think that was just that's a lot of sleepless nights, so God bless his family for having to bear with that too, right? So a lot of people don't realize that, you're in that building from sun up to sundown. and then when you get a spare minute, you have to go kiss your wife and kids, and then you got to go right back. So it can be a pretty thankless position, especially when you lose, because then you got to come out and explain why you lost. So I will say that he's doing a great job. So long story short, I like the trajectory. I think what's going to have to be the key, closing the door for your key players, and then hitting up these JUCOs. I think junior college transfers are going to be a key thing for Washington State.
Yeah, especially with the JUCO ruling, those no longer count as an eligibility year at the NCAA level. I wanted to go back just to one press conference snippet from Coach Rogers, and Sam Taylor of the Lewiston Tribune asked him just about if they're being a little too conservative in the second half.
Last 3 second halves on the road, you guys.
Sorry, Greg Woods asked the question.
Last 3 second halves on the road, you guys have 6 total points. You've had the lead in all those games. Do you feel like you're getting, conservative at all with the play calling in those spots?
Yeah, I wish, I've said this after the game when we were backed up there, when we got the fourth down stop, they controlled the clock for what I believe was 8.5 minutes on their opening drive in the second half. We were able to get the fourth down stop in the red zone, which was pivotal. And then trying to get out of that area, just because that's a scary area to be in when you're backed up. We were able to get the first down. And then I regret not being maybe more aggressive from that point on. We flipped the field, and then that's kind of the fickle part of sports is one play killed us to tie it, right? And then I felt like we should have been maybe more aggressive or creative the rest of the way. And yeah, some of those things that it's frustrating. We also have to execute the same things that we executed the first half the right way, and that's kind of goes back to staying true to the technique, true to your actual responsibility, not letting the moment or the feel of pressure get the best of you to do things that aren't really your job.
So it feels Jimmy kind of felt the same way. And maybe if we could do it over again, maybe he goes for it on that fourth down.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, MK, you say with how the defense has been playing, I don't disagree either, trying to put the game in their hands. It's kind of a catch-22.
And like Jimmy was saying, he was like, the game-changing one play, right? One play can change so much. And that, okay, I'll put it this way. A lot of people don't realize this. So there's a script for every game. So every single game, you write out a script of the top 10 plays, okay, that you're going to run when you come out the first time you touch the ball. From there, whatever happens can blow that up. So you have different scripts off of if you get a first down, if you don't get a first down, if you get a 3 and out, right? And then, so you have this mindset going in like, okay, we're up, we're going to do this, this, and this. We're going to control the narrative. We're going to run the clock down. We're going to try and score, at least get 3, whatever. So, when you have a big play, now you're scrambling like, oh my gosh, all of that stuff I just put all of my thought process into game plan wise, right? With the personnel they have on the field, I have to audible now because now we have to go score more points, right? Or we need to attack the clock. So there's a game within the game that you'll see, and you just watch the coaches' reactions. It's pretty fascinating to watch that aspect of it.
And you mentioned player retention. If you're watching this is how you can help with player retention heading into the offseason. Scan this QR code, join the 1890 Club, the Cougar Collective. Make sure to enter referred by Cougs on the couch. You can screenshot that and then click the QR code. And kind of working into this weekend, it's going to be Oregon State at Washington State. It's senior day for Washington State. We have 29 seniors, redshirt seniors, or fifth years on the roster that will be highlighted, including many key players, including safety Tucker Large, linebacker Caleb Franzel, obviously Zevi. You got Josh Meredith, the wide receiver. Maybe looking back to your senior day and that feeling running out for the last time on, in Martin Stadium, what was that like? And what advice would you give to the seniors?
Man, it gets me like emotional, man. I remember that day like it was yesterday, but having that last tunnel, I remember I had so many like emotions, feeling just running through my body. And I remember in Pullman, when I would get a sack or something, the whole stands would go Bruce. Because like to this day, there's no drug in this world that can touch that high of being in a sold out Martin Stadium, coming out that tunnel to a Coug chomp, the band playing. The best advice I can give to any senior is embrace every smell, every moment, every play. Because when it's gone, it's gone. You're never going to get that again. So just lean into it. I just remember how emotional that day was. Every teammate I had, like every time I came with the field, I'm hugging people. I'm like, I love you. I was like, we got one more ride. And I felt like I left every ounce on that field. And I there's nothing I can go back and say, I wish I could change this, because I gave it everything I had, so I feel good about it.
And then also speaking off of Jimmy's presser, talking about Tucker Large in specific, he's a senior, 5'11", 183, but talking about like the plane flights, it's those types of things that you remember. It's not all just about the game stuff. Is there any story in particular or any moment that, a travel to a certain game that just sticks out to you?
There's so many things. I know, we stayed in a hotel right there in Pullman, that hotel right when you come in. And it was, it was old. There was no remodel happening there. I remember, the owners would make us cookies. So I remember the smell of chocolate chip cookies when you come to the hotel. I remember my roommate, Adam Braidwood, man, he was just the craziest Canadian you'll ever meet in your life. I remember, traveling to Notre Dame, that feeling of, being in Indiana and seeing touchdown Jesus in the back, going to Auburn. So all those experiences that you couldn't even put a price tag on. I remember them all for sure.
How does playing a team for the second time in 4 weeks kind of change the whole overall game plan? Especially when you lose 10-7, are you changing much? Are you what is the staff doing with a second opponent so soon?
Yeah, and I think part of it too is that, you fire a coach, you get a new coach in there, and you don't really know kind of what their tendencies are. And one thing with Rob Akey is he brings the house. Like, he does not give a flying what. Like, he's coming to hit you in the teeth, and really they had nothing to lose. Their record showed that win or lose, we are where we are right now, so we're sending it, and they did. They came for Wazoo, and I don't know if Washington State was truly prepared for what they were going to put on the field, and what you could see, right? That's Oregon State team, I thought for sure Washington State was going to go in there and just tune up the band on them. So to see how it ended did not feel good at all, and it was not on my bingo card.
Yeah, they're 14-point favorites this weekend at home. 14.
Who is? Oregon
WSU.
State? Oh, WSU. I'm sorry. At least Oregon State. I was like, that's nonsense.
I think that line should be around 7 to 10 points. I just don't know if they can score enough offensively to cover.
Well, that's the difference. That's the difference. So we know the running back at Arizona State he's a dog. He's an absolute dog. So I think Washington State's going to tighten up a couple things to kind of corral him. But he kind of reminds me a little bit of Genty. It's like you're not taking one guy and taking him down. It's going to be a swarm tackle situation. So if Washington State can stop the big runs, that's going to be the difference maker, because his home run hitter ability is crazy, right? So if we can stop the big 20-plus yard gashes, even 15-yard gashes, it's going to be a different game for sure. And we got to put up points and score points.
I want to put you in the GM role real quick, though, MK. We talked about retainment, and you mentioned Isaac Terrell and a couple other guys. If you were the GM for the day and we gave you a blank check, who's the number one guy that you're going after to say, hey, I need this guy next year to lead this?
Man, honestly, I like Isaac Terrell. I just like him. I think I like his motor. I believe he's a junior right now.
He is.
He's got one more year, but I think he's going to be the heart and beat of that team. I think the defensive line is going to be something that we need to make sure that we're bringing in the JUCO spots. I think that's where we're going to find the most help. But he's just my guy. I'm a defensive end guy, so he's who I've been watching a ton of.
No bias
at all. So
Awesome. Well, MK, thanks for hopping on. Thanks for sharing some
Whoa,
insight.
whoa, whoa. Final
You got
score,
some
MK.
Okay.
Wait, let me hear you guys' score predictions first.
I got WSU 24-13.
My
hate
initial
that.
score before you said that was 24-7.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that 24-7 as well, because defensively, this is what I was thinking is if we can keep them to 7. I was thinking more like 21-7, but yeah, somewhere in that range.
So that means they cover, Dylan.
Hey, hey, you know what? I get the play this weekend, folks. Tease it. Tease it 6.5 points and go from there. You didn't hear it here.
I think Zevi's breakout game is Saturday.
Get Josh Meredith
you
the
go.
ball. 3 receptions
the
last week on 7 targets.
On senior
And-
night, man, just throw him, just literally unload for sure.
Well, MK, as always, we appreciate it. And hopefully next week we will be talking about possibly what bowl we're going to. But rule number 1, beat the Beavs.
Beat the Beavs. And I think for Jimmy Rogers, this is exactly what he needs. End the year 6-6. I mean,
Vegas had them at 5.5 wins to start the year. They didn't even think they were going to get to 6. So, at the end of the day, you take bowl eligibility year 1 and you go into a wide open Pac-12 next season.
Yes, sir. I love it. Let's go, Cougs.
Awesome.
Go Cougs.
Thanks for hopping on.
Later, brother.
See you guys. Or see ya. All right, there's MK to share his thoughts. As always, you can reach out to MK right here if you'd like to secure your mortgage with the Bruce team. And now kind of getting into a little bit more.
Hold on,
So
I've got one more ad.
Okay,
This show today is brought to you by CougFan.com. One of the better ways you can show your support to the Cougs on the Couch. Get yourself a Coug Fan membership today. Only $1 if you sign up right now.
And we'll do the other ads while we're at it. If you're thinking of buying, selling, or refinancing, I'm also a mortgage lender as well. Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, or Arizona. You can visit lenderconnorwebb.com to get in touch. I'll also have a link in the description of this video. And Dylan, you also are slinging solar.
Yeah, go ahead and lock in a energy rate for the next 25 years and do not let that big bad power company do it for you. They're going to go up on average 8%.
Now, a little bit more of a Oregon State information. So, first off, I was looking at some stats, and they're now starting to mix in a third quarterback. So we don't know who's going to be starting.
He kind of diced it up in his garbage time.
At Tulsa, 8 for 11, 141 yards, 72.7% completion rating percentage, a 240.4 quarterback rating, a 98.4 quarterback rating. Yeah, true freshman. They had Malik, who was supposed to be the starter versus in our game. Turns out he wasn't the starter. Now we'll see if it's going to be Tristan Tia, who's a true freshman.
Yeah, more of a passer too. Capable with his legs as well. I think this is going to be a tougher matchup for WSU from the quarterback side of things than what they saw with Gabari Johnson and Malik Murphy in the first go around. And Murphy was able to come in and lead them on a game-winning drive. But this is such a crucial game. If there should be a ton of pressure on this staff. This is the highest pressure game this staff will have all season long. And just to get that extra game and the extra practices, the bowl practices, especially with the amount of young guys that you have, the amount of freshmen that we see playing. Obviously the redshirt status doesn't matter in a bowl game. So if guys are at 4 games played already, they can play in that bowl game without risk of losing their red shirt. So that's where we're going to start seeing these wheels turn. If they can lock up this bowl, Kyle Bonagura and a few others have WSU pegged in the New Mexico Bowl. Coug Sutra, who back on the Twitter airwaves, he was telling me something where the SEC, depending on lower 6 and 7 win SEC teams, that might open up maybe another bowl or two, but I just don't see them getting out of the New Mexico Bowl. It's not the sexiest bowl in the world, but we'll take it.
A bowl's a bowl, I guess.
And, we have Ryan Harlan of Beeves Edge joining us at 9:45. I figured we'll take it into a little bit of basketball right now. We had round 1 of the Maui Invitational last night. And it's funny, Jamie Vinnick texted me a couple days ago, goes, "Hey, you think you can cover the game for me? I'm going to be in the air, blah, blah, blah." Yeah, it's Chaminade. Why not? This story should be done by the time the game ends. Whoa. That was not the case last night.
I was following along in the group chat. In the group chat.
Yeah,
I also
we're
had
not
the double screen of Monday Night Football with the basketball game. I was like, okay, what's going on this screen? I was more so interested in what McCaffrey was doing.
I just want to say, folks, I was not in a double screen last night. The TV was firmly implanted on ESPNU and WSU versus Chaminade. And boy, the Cougs last night, they looked like they had not practiced against a press break all summer long. I mean, it was utter nonsense for the first 10 to 15 minutes last night. Chaminade, a Division II school, they had not played in Maui since 2019. The way this is set up, they're the home host, and they get a guaranteed 3 games. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and then the Lahaina wildfire, the Maui Invitational has been moved for the last 5 years. So this is the first time it's been back in Hawaii. Also want to say great turnout from the Cougs that showed up to Hawaii. Really packed house. That was nice to see the amount of fans there here and go Cougs at the end. But at one point, Chaminade was up 39-19 in the first half. David Riley and company let a Division II school dropped 52 first half points. They did clean it up in the second half. It was a game of runs. Giant swells. WSU gets up 81-64 at one point, and then Chaminade comes all the way back, cuts it to 3 at the end, and it's true freshman Ace Glass that converted on all 4 of his free throws to end the game. And boy, they have gone to Ace. He still has yet to start. He's been coming off the bench, and I think I like him in that role. Have him come off the bench and continue to put in 20 to 30 minutes and have a real scoring threat there. But he had a career-high 26 points last night. Rahard Favors finally showed up. He was 3 of 18 from deep coming into this game. He was 7 for 12 last night, and I saw WSU's Twitter account state that I believe it was the most 3-pointers made in the last 30 years for a Coug. So he was fantastic. He had 25 points. The bench had 67 points last night. Case Why Not came in after not playing in the first half, drilled a couple big 3-pointers. Parker Garrett's, for as much as people want to laugh, he played fantastic last night in 9 minutes. 9 second half minutes, he had 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and was one of the guys that showed he can beat the press. Ace Glass said after the game that they just were thinking too much in the first half, and they finally, to be able to beat that press, they just got aggressive. But boy, you have a former Pac-12 matchup tonight in the semifinals against Arizona State in a kooky game last night where Texas was up by like 8 or 10 points with 2-3 minutes to go. And, Bobby Hurley and the Sun Devils came back. But, it's tough. When we see the Davidson game, they got smacked at Davidson. You come home, your first real Power 4 opponent is against UW. They were asleep for 30 minutes of that game. But you recruit, defense, rebounding. The defense still hasn't really shown up. Adria Rodriguez, he has had some spurts this year where you can see what the staff is seeing from Adria as a point guard. But if you can't make free throws late and you're turning the ball over, I don't know how you can be on the court in crunch time minutes, as we saw last night. So, big game for WSU. I kind of wanted to – I have my thoughts on this team, and they're kind of similar to how a lot of folks are thinking, but I wanted them to get through the Maui Invitational and see a couple big-time games. We'll see how they respond today. Here's David Riley and Ace Glass in their press conference last night.
It was a hectic game, and I think we got a really new team that hasn't really played together in these roles, and so It's the first time we've been pressed all year. It's the first time we played a team with that style, and there's a learning curve to wait when the lights turn on. So we practiced against it, didn't quite get the same look, and the guys found a way to rally around each other and get a win. And that's not an easy team to beat. Like, I was looking kind of at the history of this tournament. The last time they played in this, Anthony Edwards had hit a game winner to go beat them. And this is a team that really plays hard. Their coaching staff does a great job, and just happy we got out of there with a win.
Any questions for the players? Please raise your hand, grab a mic. Thanks.
Hey guys, from your perspective, what was it like dealing with that pressure early on, and mentally or tactically, where did you think it flipped in that game?
I feel like it came out the first time out, just knowing that they're about to do that, so just preparing for that, having different plays to break that press, or just being aggressive. I feel like that's when we really started doing good, when we started being aggressive against it. Instead of letting them come to us, we went towards them, make them back up on their heels.
Yeah, that game that Coach Riley's talking about, 2019, Georgia used a late game-winning three-pointer from Anthony Edwards, who probably top 3 player in the NBA right now, top 5 player in the NBA right now. So a little damage control from Coach Riley there at the end of the press conference. But folks, if there's any comments, any ideas on WSU basketball, please let us know. Drop a comment.
Dylan, I have a question for you. So just looking at the stat line, the entire starting roster had 23 points. Babers had 25. Glass had 26. Is there a certain reason why you're thinking Glass would be better off the bench compared to in the starting lineup if he's obviously outperforming everyone else that's starting?
Yeah, because I worry who's going to score when 3 or 4 guys come off the bench and you only have 1 or 2 starters. Now, if it gets to a point where Ace Glass he's averaging 17, 18 points a game, he's going to force your hand and you're going to have to put him in the starting lineup. But it's tough, especially I hate to be this Debbie Downer, but it's like, in years past, like the years of like, okay, we're struggling this year, right? But you see a player like Ace Glass, you're stoked for the following year, or when they're in their junior season. The days of watching your team generate buzz after maybe a couple bad seasons and seeing it through where you have capable juniors and seniors, they're gone. I mean, guys are just not staying 4 years anymore. So it's tough. It's like, I can't, it's like, do I want to watch Ace? Do I think he's fun to watch? Yes. But like at the end of the day, are we going to be able to keep him, or is he going to be playing for some Big East school or Big 12 school next year? So, I mean, those are just some of the things that the NIL has impacted. And, this Players Era tournament, it's a bunch of bullshit, man. It's completely ruining Feast Week. Folks say like, oh, look at how bad the bracket is for the Maui Invitational this year. Well, one of the reasons for that is because the rich keep getting richer. Out of these 16 teams that are in this Players Era tournament, I believe each team gets at least $1 million to NIL going in there. It's the San Diego States, the Notre Dames, the Houstons. I mean, the rich continue to get richer. And, I think I was against the NCAA tournament and expanding it, but listening to the George Washington head coach talk about NCAA expansion, it's the mid-majors that want the expansion, because all these Power Four schools are getting the at-large berths. So we got a funny comment. I can't wait to see this too tonight. I hope we can see a red Bobby Hurley stomping around, throwing a tantrum. I don't know if the Cougs are going to be up 25 tonight, though. But again, we are just a couple minutes away from Ryan Harlan joining us at Beaver's Edge via On3 Sports. He's going to give us an update on the Cougs coaching search. Paul Christ, former head coach of Wisconsin, took his name out of the running for the job. So, we got Ryan right now. Perfect timing.
So this is Ryan Harlan. We're going to talk through some Oregon State matchup upcoming. And so with that, let's see here. Ryan, thanks for hopping on.
Appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
No worries. Yeah, Ryan, it's getting busy with the coaching carousel. Let's lead off with that. A report that Paul Christ took his name out of the running. You've got folks showing up at the airport, making sure coaches are not flying private anymore because it's flight tracker season. So give us a quick update where we're at with the Beavs and their coaching search.
Yeah, so Paul Christ was a name that was floated early on in kind of the coaching search, right after Trent Bray was fired. Definitely a Mike Riley pick in there because Riley is on the committee, in addition to Oregon State using a search firm as well, which is a first for I've ever heard in a coaching search, which doesn't inspire a lot of confidence, in my personal opinion, in my personal take, when you have to use both the committee and a firm at the same time. But in terms of coaches and the latest kind of updates that I can give in terms of who I think is kind of in that front runner position, I've heard a lot of smoke around Jamarcus Shepard, currently at Alabama. I've heard Brent Vegan. Obviously, you mentioned Vegan coming into PX on Sunday. That definitely I can confirm as well, tracking his flight coming in from Bozeman to Portland. The other ones that have been around, that have been floated, Justin Wilcox obviously is a recent development. Jim Mora as well too. I have heard nothing on Tim Polasek from my sourcing. In fact, like, I've heard more in the past 24 hours on Justin Wilcox than I have on Tim Polasek. So that tells you how serious of a candidate he is. So it's really Shepard, Vegan, Mora, and now Wilcox kind of now in that mix, because the familiarity factor with Scott Barnes and Wilcox is kind of going back to when Jonathan was first hired back in 2018. So Wilcox interviewed for the Oregon State job before he ended up at Cal. But at this point, if I'm being honest, you need to get somebody like yesterday, because right after Washington State game on Saturday, you need to get a guy for early signing day, like now, because the class, even though it's small, right? It's like those 8 kids need to know what program they're committing to, at least for their first year of college with the transfer portal and all that. But like, they need to know who, because otherwise, like, I could see those guys potentially flipping or going somewhere else if they don't have a coach that they know that they can commit to here in Corvallis.
Any insight on how Vegan was tracked? Did someone throw an Apple AirTag like in his backpack or something? Because I mean, he goes commercial to try to avoid this, and then here's the paparazzi when he arrives.
Well, I had a flight tracking, the little like flight tracker on my phone of just like looking at flights, and I was getting some chatter from a source basically saying that, oh yeah, like Vegan's on a flight from Bozeman to PDX. I'm sorry, what? Well, like, okay, like, this is not the news I was expecting on a Sunday. So I hopped on and I was just trying to track out flights. I mean, I'm down in Corvallis, so that would have been a drive for me to make it up all the way to Portland. But yeah, Ryan Clark, shout out him from the Oregonian for going there, waiting at arrivals to go talk to Vegan. So if Vegan had a connecting flight from PDX down to Corvallis, yeah, I would have been staking myself out at the Corvallis airport, wanting to look for this. But it looks like, I think Scott Barnes is trying the old route of, we're not going to have somebody fly down to Corvallis like we did with Jonathan last time.
It takes me back to circa 2018 with Zach Anders, where we got to Pullman Moscow Airport at 12:30 in the morning when Coach Leach got back from interviewing for Tennessee. And his line to us was like, if I did interview for him, I wouldn't tell you. And if I didn't interview for him, I wouldn't tell you. So classic Coach Leach there. But, interesting. 2 of these names were in the coaching carousel for WSU last year. Jamarcus Shepard obviously was a wide receivers coach for WSU during the Wazoo years, as well as Brent Vegan, who was reportedly flew down to San Diego to meet with Ann McCoy and the Cougs while they were down at the Holiday Bowl last year. But almost a similar timeline to when the Cougs lost their coach. Now, they lost their coach after they had their national signing day. Coach Rogers was able to come in and still keep some of those players. You mentioned just the timeline of this. I think Justin Wilcox getting fired, do you think that just kind of halted everything? Or at least paused?
I think it did. I mean, when Wilcox became available, right, my immediate gut reaction was you at least do your due diligence, right? Give him a call if he's interested. I mean, Wilcox is a local guy. He's from Junction City, so he's not too far, from Corvallis anyway, and grew up, in Oregon, played for the Ducks, right? Like, so it's kind of a no-brainer a little bit to at least do that. Now, like, as much as I understand the due diligence part, it's also just a timeline of if I'm Vegan or Shepherd and I've had that second interview, right? Like, I want to know right away if you're going to offer me the job or not, because I might have something else down the line, or I might wait it out if you're not going to give me this job, right? So it kind of goes both ways a little bit. And now I'm also like, with the Wilcox stuff, I'm kind of like, you need to make a call now, because as much as I think you could talk me into Wilcox being a benefit for Oregon State, I also am kind of worried more on the signing aspect of this class and retention of who you can retain in the roster than kind of anything else. Because I know the portal season is going to be bad.
Let me play devil's advocate here, though. When you take a look at bringing in a new team, what we saw with Jimmy Rogers, he brought in 15 of his better players from the FC level at South Dakota State. You think the same thing happens with a Brent Vegan, bringing some of his guys with him from Montana State, or Justin Wilcox bringing his guys with him from Cal. What do you think is the better route? Who do you think is going to be able to bring in, a better stable or slew of players from their previous stop?
I'm a little biased about Montana State because I've watched a fair amount of Montana State football, having a parent who's an alum of Montana State, so I watch a little bit. So a little biased in probably this take, but I like what Vegan's done, and I know you can at least shore up a lot of depth there for guys that are probably going to depart from this Oregon State roster. Now, the issue obviously is the translation over from FCS to FBS competition. How do guys adjust and keeping up that level of performance of being at the top tier of FCS competition, and now going into not necessarily like, Power 4, but Group of 6 kind of football, and how does that kind of work? So there's a little bit of unknowns there. So as much as I like that, I still think you would get some guys from Cal and some of Wilcox's guys, like a JKS, who is familiar with Corvallis. Oregon State was a finalist for his recruiting before he ultimately ended up going to Oregon and then flipping to Cal again in transfer portal, kind of after the Rose Bowl there last season. So I like both options, to be quite honest with you. So it's kind of a middle ground. It's not like choosing one way or another, but it's just more of like there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of, I think, kind of question marks that come with both options.
I will just say the transition from FCS to this level, I feel like, we saw it with Washington State with the guys that they brought from South Dakota State. Some of Washington State's best players this year, Tucker Large, a safety, Caleb Franzel, linebacker, multiple other guys came from South Dakota and were able to be right there. Kirby Voorhees, running back. So looking at Montana State, the 57-12 is Vegan as head coach at Montana State. They obviously have a quality program. I wouldn't doubt that, if they were to get some of those FCS guys over, that they're going to play up to the next level for sure.
Jumping into this week, have they named a starter? Is it going to be Tristan Tia?
I knew this question was going to happen. I even teased some of my friends too. I'm like, so you want to know if Tristan Tia is starting? And they're like, yes. Well, Rob Akey decided to be coy and say, oh, we're going to put out all three quarterbacks at once. We might start all three. And I'm like, as much as I love that as the college football sicko that I am, just to see what a 3 quarterbacks in the backfield would look like.
Connor wanted that with Wazoo.
Yeah, as we can tell you, it doesn't go as planned. It doesn't go as you might think.
No, it's like as much as I want to see it, it's like start Tristan. Like you have nothing to lose. Like I think it might be him for this weekend. It's just more of a from looking at that Tulsa game, it's like I don't care at the end if it was backups or anything like that. Give the kid a chance. If you're Oregon State, you're really playing for nothing at this point other than getting guys tape and then also spoiler. But like, we've seen Malik Murphy. That's not worked out. Jabari Johnson really hasn't panned out either in terms of getting the offense going. And Tristan, in the second to last game of the season, is finally able to open up the passing attack. And just sitting there watching that at that point in garbage time, I couldn't believe it. Just of like, yeah, it's your third string quarterback that happens to make everything click offensively after you struggled for four quarters mostly. It's one of those where I think you just give the kid a chance, let him see the field, see if he's your guy going forward, because Malik's not going to be here next year. I don't expect Jabari to be here next year with this new coaching staff. It's give Tristan a shot and see what you have in him. And the only other quarterback on that roster that should see the field, in addition to Tristan, depending on how the game goes, obviously, is Colin Guttridge. Those are the only two QBs that I really want to see out there on that field.
It really doesn't matter who's named starter because Malik Murphy was named the starter before the last Washington State matchup, and then out comes, Jabari. So,
Ryan, I wanted to ask you from like an overall perspective on next season with the first year in the Pac-12. When you take a look at all the teams that are now in the mix, it seems wide open to me. Boise State just lost a step without having Genty. Maddox Madsen, I don't know if he's really their guy for the future. You had Fresno State with a big win against Boise State. They come back, they lose at versus Utah State. But who do you think has the inside edge to being the top dog in the Pac-12 next year?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I mean, as much as Scott Barnes wants to talk up Oregon State right now, I just don't see it, at least because you don't have a head coach. You don't know what the roster is going to look like. Sure, resources and facilities, right? That puts you at the top, but you also need to nail this hire at the same time. I still would probably put Boise State up there, but I think I like what Matt Entz is doing at Fresno right now. Boise's probably 2 for me. And then depending on kind of how the offseason goes
who knows if Sean Lewis is around. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Probably Cougs, and then San Diego State 3 or 4 kind of in there in terms of like if I had to make a top 4 kind of off the dome right now, that's at least how I would kind of put things at this point in time. Because if Oregon State gets a guy and, you nail transfer portal, get a decent foundation in a recruiting class, and you retain who you can for this cycle from this past roster, and you hit the ground running, you get 7-8 wins year one. I call that a success for whoever Oregon State's head coach would be. Now it's a matter of, does Scott Barnes nail the hire than anything else? You can tell by like, I keep coming back to that because that's something that like I have apprehension on, and a lot of other Oregon State fans and alums have apprehension on, just because of just how crucial this hire is, kind of after how this season has gone and how you approach hiring Trent Bray 2 years ago. You need to hit the ground running if you truly think that you can compete at the top of the Pac-12 next year.
Yeah, it just goes to show you not every defensive coordinator put in an interim role that wins the job can be like Jake Dickert. That's no less. But taking a look at your game prediction this week, I was a little surprised to see Vegas had the Cougs as 13 to 14 point favorites. You know, I guess logic would tell you like they should win by 14 or 15. But I don't know if they can score enough offensively to cover that. What is your game prediction this weekend?
I'm hammering Washington State. I mean, I know the line. I know what that says. But also too with Oregon State, I'm like, those lines mean nothing this year anymore. It was the same thing for Lafayette when the Beavers played them, and then also too for Sam Houston at the same time.
Man.
It's like that game. So I'm like, those
300 more yards of total offense than Sam Houston. I mean, you look at that stat line. You're like, how did they lose this game?
And I was the only one from our staff too to have Tulsa winning last week. So I'm taking probably like a let's see, 28-10 Cougs win. Yeah, something like that.
28-10.
Yeah.
And Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. I don't know, Connor, I don't know if you have anything more for him.
No, we're good. Where can people find your stuff?
Yeah, you can find my stuff on Twitter at Ryan_Harlan7, and then all my stuff over at Beaver's Edge for On3. So yeah, I'll have a takeaways piece with Brendan for the final game of the year, and then we're fully on to basketball season.
Basketball.
And the coaching search. We sleep in May. Actually, more like July, but we sleep in May.
We both know the heavy hitting basketball programs for WSU and OSU are surely going to be making noise in March this year. But Ryan Harlan,
I was like 0-3 slide. 0-3 slide, Dylan. In the Virgin Islands for Wayne Tingle's group.
Well, hey, maybe they can touch some sand before they fly home.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, appreciate it. On 3 Sports, Beaver's Edge is where you can find his work, and take a look at his Twitter profile throughout the week, dropping stories, nuggets, and coaching search nuggets as well. So, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
There he is, Ryan Harlan. So now, it'll be interesting to see which route they end up going with the head coach. And then also obviously just this weekend with the quarterback, with how they come out to play. Obviously, like you mentioned, they have a chance to play spoiler. That's really what they're playing for. We'll see how heavy of turnover it is this offseason. It will be interesting to see. I mean, if Vegan were to come over, if they take that blueprint of what Jimmy did from South Dakota, is able to pull a lot of those Montana State guys. I mean, when you and I were talking last year, we were hoping that he was Vegan. We didn't even know about Jimmy up to this point.
Yeah. So was Ryan Leaf. And I think that's what we're seeing too. When you take a look at college football, obviously Power 4 analogies, but Coach Sig, bringing all his guys from James Madison and getting into the playoffs year one in the Big Ten with a Indiana roster that really wasn't loaded before he got there. Jimmy Rogers, our version. This is what you're seeing. I mean, we saw it in basketball last year. David Riley comes in. Well, here comes 4 starters from Eastern Washington. I mean, that's one of the better ways of recruiting and hitting that transfer portal is
a little jump
new
start
coach. Going to be interesting to see. Again, 14-point favorites for WSU this weekend. Game time is 3:00 p.m. And then, an update for tonight. WSU is going to be playing on the worldwide leader, ESPN. We all know how much we love it, but they're going to be on the main ESPN channel where Dan Schulman and Jay Billis will be on the call. So 6 p.m. Pacific time tonight against Arizona State, and the red-faced baby assassin tantrum man, Bobby Hurley, on the sideline. Should be an interesting one. We'll see if the Cougs can hang around. Again, Emmanuel Ugbo, not looking like he's playing this week in Hawaii with a boot on, but Tomas Thrasserson was able to play after missing last game. So Cougs almost at 100%. We'll see how they do tonight. Connor, anything else, my man?
That's it. Looking forward to this Saturday, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below on the football team, on the basketball team, which bowl game Washington State might be in, where they should head moving forward. And make sure to like and subscribe to this video. Join us on the next live stream. And for more things,
JoinCougFan.com.
Subscribe to CougFan.com for all things WSU athletics, and we'll see you in the next one.
I do have to give a shout out to the podcast, the Couch GM Pod.